The Family Experiment by Polonium Poisoning, Part 1. Sociology always fascinated me, and after decades of writing books and being a professor, I was lucky to become part of a team funded by very important corporations to create a daring experiment. We wanted to know what happens when you isolate a common family from the entire world. The structure for the study was amazing. Courtesy of a very high budget, we had an entire house built inside the facilities and did a few long, meticulous interviews to select our subjects. The Smiths were a typical suburban family of 4. The father, Regis Smith, had recently lost his job. He had 2 teenagers, Maya and George, and his wife Sandra had never once worked in her life. So, he was pretty desperate to get in. They were selected over a second family that met all our expectations because they had no other living relatives. Both Regis and Sandra were only children, and both their parents had passed. They also had no close friends, nor did the children. The sponsors urged us to believe we saved a family from being homeless. But every time I remember what happened, I believe it less and less. Here are the most relevant parts of the log that we researchers collectively kept. We took turns surveying the subjects 24 hours per day, and in every room in the house. There were 3 8-hour shifts, each including a sociologist, a psychiatrist, and a few assistants. I may have inserted a few extra pieces of information to help you understand better the whole story. Also, we called the subjects by numbers to avoid humanizing them too much, but I'm transcribing their real names. In time, you'll understand why. Day 1. They're all quiet and awkward, too aware of the monitoring to do anything normal. All 4 of them mostly just sit around uncomfortably. The subjects have access to internet to keep a sense of normalcy, but since they have to be isolated from the world, they can't post on social media or comment on sites, only use it to read news, books, and the like. Their internet use is being remotely monitored by techs related to our team, and can be terminated forever at any time if they break the rules. Day 2. Maya woke up screaming from a nightmare. The subjects are slowly adjusting. The monitoring is very subtle, and the countless cameras and mics are very well hidden, so it's easy to forget that they're there. Especially with your family around, I suppose. Day 3. One of the cameras malfunctioned yesterday, and I had someone go and change it without being seen, but today, the image is all black again. It's a mere closet, and the subjects don't know this part of the house is monitoring free, so maybe there's no need to change a second time. At least the microphone there still works. To keep normalcy, we ask the adults to make a few daily tasks. Besides cleaning and cooking, they have to homeschool their kids, make grocery lists, clean a car that never leaves their garage but is constantly being dirtied by one of the assistants, and at least one of them should keep a remote job. They also have to wake up early every day, like they were in the outside world. This has put a huge stress on George, who's clearly a night owl and bad sleeper in general. Day 6. Sandra and Regis are fighting the whole time. He tried to delegate the tasks, but she called him controlling. She wants to homeschool the kids, but he says she's dumb as a door. She offers to have a job then, but he says she's only good at household chores. Sandra is pretty hurt and mad. Day 9. Maya went to the grocery room, a separate part of the house where one of the assistants puts food and basic home supplies once a week, and spent 45 minutes talking to herself. All of them picked this habit around day 4. The house is not big enough for them to have a lot of privacy, and everyone is bothered by each other's constant presence. This is getting interesting. Maya mumbled precisely 103 times, "It's unbearable that Dad never leaves." Day 16. George has been having more trouble than usual with sleeping. He moves too much in the bed, then wakes up tired, in cold sweat. He loses focus while studying. Only his sister seems to notice he has a problem. "We'll leave this place eventually, right?" the 13-year-old boy asked his older sister. "I really want to go to college one day." She said, "Sure, don't be silly." Day 23. Regis isolated himself from the family, focusing on his work. He built furniture and wooden pieces on demand. Obviously, our fake demand. His work is very noisy, and it's clearly driving everyone else crazy. He's the only one who seems to be happy, or at least not stressed all the time. He and Sandra are alternating between screaming at each other and completely ignoring each other. But despite the fight, most nights in bed he looks for her in the dark. Her size suggests that she only wants the semi-consented, at best, sex to end. But it doesn't seem to bother him at all. Dr. Ivanov, my assigned fellow psychiatrist, thinks he even enjoys it. How she clearly doesn't want him to touch her, but has no will to say no. She thinks it is her job, because he is better than her, and he knows it. What a scary man is Regis. I'm excited to know who he really is when the social persona he puts on shatters. I'm convinced that there's still something more, something darker. Day 38. Everything was going relatively fine, or, I should say, eventless, until George woke up once again in a sweat and trembling. Without notice, he simply got up, went to the kitchen, and cut off his wrist. The knife was too sharp, and his hand ended up dangling from the arm, only a piece of skin, avoiding that it gets completely detached. Sandra was the one who found him, collapsed on the kitchen floor. She did nothing but scream, looking at a direction she thought to be a camera. "You're killing us! You're psychos!" Maya, quite the practical one, went to the grocery room, where we had already provided a good first aid kit, painkillers and antibiotics to help deal with the trauma and relieve the pain. We're not that bad. She sedated her brother, cleaned the wound, and clumsily sewed his hand back, then bandaged the whole thing. It was a decent job for a 15-year-old. I was proud of her, like God was proud after creating Adam. Day 39. Once again, Sandra is screaming at a supposed camera. "You need to provide us medical care for my son. He needs a psychological evaluation and antidepressants." Sorry, Sandra, but the point is observing your family with no contact with another human being. Besides, he's being evaluated. We just can't tell him the diagnosis. Our silence seemed to kill her inside. Pointing her finger at the wrong direction, she added, "You need to do something, or I will." Day 42. Sandra tried to contact a psychiatrist online and had to be put in the solitary for a week. Her access to internet is terminated for life too. No more fantasizing about ethnical males in thongs for you, my lady, or browsing through recipes just to realize in the next grocery day that one ingredient will always be missing. After all, we have to keep normalcy. Minor annoyances happen every day. She keeps screaming at us. "How long will you keep us here? 6 months? A whole year? I can't stand another week in this hell." Day 48. Regis was cranky and borderline abusive with his kids the entire week. This was the first time he addressed us. "How am I supposed to not fuck for a week, you sick fucks? Are you enjoying my misery? This crap is over. I want to give up. I'll contact my lawyer." But he never did. He may have power over his weak-willed wife, but he can't do shit to us. And that makes me smile. We don't enjoy human misery, but we enjoy yours. Besides, he's our most interesting subject. Day 49. Sandra was hysterical for the week, but calmed down once Maya went to the grocery room and bought a fair amount of booze. We only give them alcohol on special occasions, and Christmas was coming. Cigarettes and drugs are strictly banned. Sandra kept all the alcohol for herself, demanding that her daughter keeps it a secret from the boys. Her addiction made it easier to get through the next month. Too bad for her that the stock ended. Day 62. George tried to end all this by setting the house on fire. Our fire alarm is very good, so besides a few second-degree burns on his former good hand and a wet house, nothing happened. He claims to miss a girl named Karina. We imagine she is a school crush. Sandra started to change. She sent Regis to sleep in his small workshop. He slapped her in the face so hard that she was bruised for a week, but she didn't back off, and he was too surprised to do anything else before she shoved him out the door. You can see that this man is very used to resorting to physical punishment to get what he wants from the weaker, and the only reason why it took this long for us to see him in action was that his family already knew better, and did everything to avoid his fury. Day 70. Sandra told Maya, "We girls gotta stay together." Maya is not interested in being anybody's ally. She seems to do better alone. We had to change the closet camera again, because George has been spending more and more time there. Now, instead of static, all you can see is darkness. A reddish darkness, like when you close your eyes on a sunny day. We should probably put one camera out of the closet, but facing it. Maya asked who is Karina, but George won't answer. Day 73. George is gone. Yesterday, all the cameras in his room malfunctioned. You could only hear sounds. He was talking alone. We're sure of it because all the others were being seen in different rooms, but he was distressed. Like someone having a heated argument. "No, I won't kill Dr. Shanton," were his last words. Before a loud series of bangs started, Maya rushed to his room and screamed. "No, George, please. Please stop hurting yourself. Please, please!" You could hear her loud crying as her parents approached the room. The cameras went back to normal, except the one in the closet. And George was a dreadful sight. His whole head was ripped open, with blood and brains staining the closet door, the floor, and his sister. He was barely recognizable as a human anymore. He looked like a pumpkin ran over by a truck. He banged his head so strongly, Maya said, between sobs. He killed himself in an awful way, awful, awful way. For the first time since the experiment started, I grabbed the only microphone that can be heard inside the house. Lock yourselves in other rooms immediately. We are removing George.